Jared was a finalist for 5 years, got in on his fifth year. Kevin Williams, until this year, had never even made the semifinals, which is 25. So he makes it past the semis, makes it into the finals. He is one of now, with Luke Kuechly getting in the Hall of Fame, he's one of only 4 position players in the history of the league to ever have 5 first team All Pro in an all decade and not be in the Hall of Fame, who's eligible. So his case should have been in that room sooner. Gets overshadowed obviously by Jared. Gets kind of overlooked because he's was a quiet, unassuming player who's the front end of his career was, it was all of his All Pros and his Pro Bowls were like in his first 8 years. And my argument is he was a hell of a player went on to be another 5 years. We've put people in the Hall of Fame that have had shorter bursts than 8-year great years. And so I think he got in the room, he got discussed, some good conversation on him, but he got eliminated from when it went from 15 to 10. When we went from 15 to 10, the others to be eliminated were Jari Evans, Eli Manning, Reggie Wayne, and Torrey Holt. Reggie Wayne and Torrey Holt were in the room for the 8th time. So you're talking about 8 straight years, or is it next year? 7 or 8 years of every year talking about Reggie Wayne, Torrey Holt. And, this, I know that one or both of them at some point have made it past the final 10. This was a really strong year for the modern guys because, the way the voting changed last year or 2 years ago, to where we get down to the final, we go from 15 to 10 to 7, and then we vote 5 of 7. And then they add up those numbers. And if you make 80%, you get in. Well, it becomes harder to get in. So you have leftover guys. You had Luke Kuechly was left over. Adam Vinatieri was left over. So those guys get in when they probably in the past would have gone in, a year earlier. They were in this class. So, and then next year, the class gets even more full with guys like Adrian Peterson's his first year of eligibility next year. Gronkowski. So a lot, the good players great players keep coming.
Right.
So, it was good to see Kevin, at least get his, some discussion in the room for the first time.
Does that help? Does that help going forward? I mean, certainly it doesn't hurt, but I mean, does that help to get at least his the discussion in front of these guys so that when they hear about him next year and they talk about him, they'll be more familiar? Or, I mean, does it help in any way?
Well, I think it doesn't hurt. Obviously, if he doesn't come back, because I was talking to him and he said, no, and these guys, as great as they are, they don't really know the format and everything. And like, do I come back automatically next year? And well, if you made the final 7, you do. He didn't make the final 7, so. The case kind of starts over again, but he's got a strong case and he's right there. And I think it does help. Typically guys, you don't see a guy hang around forever and then just disappear. It's very, very rare. I think L.C. Greenwood, who became a senior candidate this year, who didn't get in, he was one of those guys. I think was like 8 times as a finalist and didn't get in. And Carl Eller, as great as Carl Eller it was, he got in I think he got in as a senior.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, he was, a guy that, when you look at like some of the people, they would say, well, it's no less, his gold jacket isn't any less than a first ballot guy. Carl Eller was a great player, but it took him several years to get in. And so it's supposed to be tough. And it was, and Kevin had a real good attitude about it. He was like, yeah, I'm honored to be like just in that 15. Now, it drags on and on and on. You're not quite as honored. You're kind of pissed, but foot in the door is how I look at it.